Welcome to Dustin's Kaleidoscope, where we explore vibrant stories of transformation, risk-taking, and living life with intention. Today's episode is a powerful one. I'm joined by Chrishan Wright, digital nomad, entrepreneur, and founder of Blaxit Global, a platform that supports Black expats as they navigate life abroad. Chrishan shares what it really takes to dream big, cross oceans, and design a life beyond borders. We talk about the pivotal moment that led to her first solo trip to New Zealand, the community she's cultivated in Portugal, and the mindset shifts, especially for those over 45 who are embracing the expat life with courage and clarity. If you've ever felt the urge to leave the familiar or start over, this conversation is filled with real talk, practical insight, and inspiration to help you take the leap. So let's get started. Hi, this is Dustin, and today I am talking with Chrishan Wright, and she is an expat from the United States who is now living in Portugal. So let's get started. First of all, thank you so much for coming on the show.
Oh, thank you for the invite.
So, I ran across your website, and there was an article about you that happened to be online. And I, as someone who has also lived abroad, I'm always curious about what takes people from the U.S. or from wherever to go and intentionally lead a life outside of the U.S. So can we start there? And can you tell us how you came to this decision and how you came to decide upon Portugal as a place to live?
Ooh, great question. So for me, the desire to move abroad has been a lifelong dream.
Okay.
So when I was a kid growing up in the Bronx, I used to think about, imagine, be fascinated by living abroad. I don't even know how that seed got planted, but I used to journal about growing up and becoming a corporate lawyer living in New Zealand.
Oh, wow.
And
very specific.
No, right? Very specific, from a little Black girl in the Bronx. And so I don't know, I used to tell my mom, like I said, years of a journal. And then I became an adult, went to college, went to grad school, had my children, I got married along the way, and that dream became further and further away. And so I had gotten divorced, and I think I'd been divorced maybe 6 years at that point. And I used to go down to the Jersey Shore. I was living in New Jersey. And I was like, always thinking, excuse me. I want to move abroad. I want to live abroad. And it just got, it kept coming back for me. And I kept telling myself, when I meet somebody, that's when I'll travel the world. When I meet someone, I kept putting conditions on everything. And then one day in particular, I was walking along the Jersey Shore and I was like, why do I keep telling myself this story? It's not working.
Right.
I can choose something different. And that moment, I remember, it was like July of 2016.
Really?
And I went home and I bought the ticket to New Zealand. And that was it. I literally just bought the ticket on Emirates. I didn't think about anything else. I just was like, hey, I'm going. So much so that I didn't even pay attention till maybe a few days before the flight. I have to choose a seat. I have to know where I'm going to be staying. I was so green, right? And so this was now January of 2017. And so I went to New Zealand for close to 3 weeks, and oh my gosh, it exceeded my expectations. It was my first solo trip, and I was just all the things, right? All the preconceived things of, am I going to be safe traveling as a solo female? Am I going to encounter racism and other things as a Black female traveler? All the things that were in my mental headspace. And when I got there, it was just releasing. And so people were kind. People were looking me in the eye and saying good morning and doing all these, wonderful acts of kindness. I stayed in a few Airbnbs with the hosts before I ventured out on my own. And they would they were very protective because I was a single female traveling for my first time all the way across the world, inviting me to dinner at their house, giving me gifts, like all these. I'm like, you don't know me from Boo. I had an issue with one of my reservations, and the host of the next reservation was like, oh, just come a day early. Didn't accept any money. I was like, what is this? I mean, and it was just like other things. And the day before I was to fly back to the U.S., I was just bawling my eyes out because I was like, oh, at that point, I had spent 40 something years in the United States.
Right.
And had never seen and never encountered and never felt that level of visibility. Because a lot of times we're visible but not visible. The acts of kindness, and it reinforced my belief in humanity. And I said, okay, you know what? This is enough. Like, when my daughter turns 18 and goes off to college, that's a wrap. I'm out. So as I made that decision in 2017, 2023, 6 years, right? So I had to hold on to that dream and keep it alive.
Okay.
For 6
and
years.
how did you do that?
And yeah, it was hard because this time I knew I didn't want to let it go the way I did the first time when I was a kid.
Okay.
And I was like, oh, that dream was a dream deferred, like
right.
Raisin in the Sun. And I said, not this time. And so each year I had benchmarks, financial benchmarks that I wanted to reach because I knew I needed money to live.
Right.
Because most countries won't let you in if you don't have money. So I was like, okay, I need to set aside money for this. I need to get my family ready to deal with the fact that I'm leaving. And at that time, New Zealand was the choice. And fast forward a bit, I started Blaxit Global in 2020, all of everything that 2020 was.
Right.
And it goes back to like what I said earlier about the dream falling away from me. When everything was going on in 2020, the riots, the protests, everything, right? The pandemic, the unemployment, it was a powder keg. And I was seeing, the deaths of Ahmaud Arbery, Breonna Taylor, George Floyd, and having a visceral reaction and closing into myself because at that point it was 2020. So 2023, those 3 years felt like 30.
Right.
And I just started thinking that it wasn't going to happen, right? Like, this is the end of the road. I'm never going to achieve this dream. And so I had started Blaxit Global, and then maybe about a year into it, my daughter had shared, because she was home on lockdown, and she was like, Mommy, New Zealand's too far while I'm in college. And I was like, okay. And I'm a reasonable parent, right? And again, right, the rewiring that happened in my mind, her telling me I was grateful for, because one, it just strengthened our bond in terms of her being able to tell me what she's feeling and not fear my reaction. But two, like, it gave me a point of negotiation, right? Say, okay, you know what? I'm still leaving, but I'll look at other places, right? So I thought about, at that point, I think I had 2 seasons of the podcast in. So I started reflecting on which conversations that I had, because remember, this is all going during lockdown. I'm having conversations with Black expats all over the world because I can't travel, right? Most of people couldn't travel even if they were abroad. So I thought about the conversations that intrigued me the most, and I started off with Costa Rica, thinking, okay, that's closer to the U.S. It was a challenging scouting trip, to say the very least.
Really? How so?
Oh.
I hear so many good things about Costa Rica. I hear so many good things.
And there's a lot of things you don't know about Costa Rica, a.k.a. Nosta Rica. Lovely people, beautiful country, but that's a hard pass for me.
Okay.
I was like, no. Everything that could go wrong during that scouting trip went wrong. And it just gave me, like, to the point where I was just like, okay, God, like, no more. Because I get it. I'm not moving here. You don't have to keep having these bad things happen on my trip.
Oh, okay.
Because I don't want to come here. And, you know, I got out. Yeah, Costa Rica. So then I was like, okay, you know what? Next country. And then I thought about the conversation I had with Char Winter, who's the creator and founder of the Expat app. And she was in Portugal. So I re-listened to the episode, and I was like, okay, you know what? I'm going to check out Lisbon. And I got on a plane and came here, and maybe the third day, I was like, oh, I like this country. Like, I don't know where in this country I want to live.
Right.
But I want to live here. And that was it.
What was it about Portugal?
I think in a lot of ways, Portugal has a lot of the elements that attracted me in the heart space to New Zealand, right? Like, people were kind. It's a beautiful landscape of the country. It was very easy to traverse, you know, in terms of infrastructure. Food was excellent. And yeah, there's just this, I don't know, it's kind of hard to describe. Portugal has this like soul. And I have been to a bunch of other countries, and especially now that I live in Europe, but, you know, I keep coming back, like Portugal's now home. And so I didn't go to the next country that was on my list, Italy, because I was like, oh no, found where I'm at.
Really?
I'm good.
Really?
Yeah, I mean, I've been to Italy since, but I was just like, oh, I didn't feel like, oh, I should have gone one more country. And I don't feel like Portugal was me settling because I couldn't go to New Zealand. No, this was actually where my story is supposed to be. And this is where this chapter is supposed to unfold. And so through being here, I've met some wonderful, wonderful Black expats. We have an amazing community here. I've also made friends with some Portuguese locals, and have, you know, had some events with other diasporans from Angola and Guinea-Bissau and Mozambique. And it's just really a beautiful, beautiful chapter.
Wow. It sounds like you did not have to, there was no reason to go to any other scouting trip, because this sort of fed your soul in a sense. It sounds like this was the place you were meant to be.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
Do you feel like this is where, I know you travel around Europe because it's so accessible, but do you feel like this is your last stop? Like where you will stay? Do you think you'll come back to the U.S.? Do you think you'll go to other? No? Okay. No on the U.S. How about other?
Hard pass. That's a harder pass than Costa Rica. Hell no.
Well,
no, ma'am. We'll not be going back there. No.
Well, have you thought about other countries within Europe or other places?
Yeah, actually I have.
Okay.
I don't know if Portugal is my forever home.
Okay.
And the reason why I say that has nothing to do with the country, the people, or anything I've described. It's that now that I live here and I'm out of the confines of the U.S. and my nervous system is starting to settle, and I'm the most present I've ever been in my entire life. I'm not replaying the past. I'm not time traveling into the future, right? To think of a future state.
Right.
I'm present. And so I want to enjoy this moment and all of its beauty and watching it unfold. And at the same time, you know, I know as a human being and a global citizen that, you know, there are things that are outside of my control. And so where would that next country be? Where would that plan B country be if things were to change dramatically for me here? I've thought about it, and so far, Southeast Asia has been a good one that's like in my line of sight, so to speak. You know, I've been to Indonesia, and I just spent a month in Thailand and Vietnam, and Southeast Asia is just beautiful. Like, there's definitely a lot of energy, a rhythm there. I don't know, it's like a organized, disorganized chaos, but it works. And I love that energy. And so I could see that like being somewhere as my next act, but if it never happens either, that's fine too, because like I said, I travel quite a bit, and I'm already planning trips for next year to go to Japan. So either way, nice. I'm going back to Asia.
Okay, that's very nice. So you said that you compromised with your daughter about not going so far when she was in college. So when did you actually move to Portugal? What year?
Yeah, September of 2023. Okay. So now my daughter is finishing up her sophomore year in college. And so 2 down, 2 to go. Because, college is expensive in the United States.
Yes.
And so I've just, I've enjoyed being here. She's come to visit quite a few times. Okay. She's visited me twice. My brother actually was just here. My older brother left a few days ago. When my other brother came to visit in January. So I've had 3 relatives visit already this year. And that's been great. Even my mom, who does not have a passport, has been talking about, I think I'm going to get a passport. I'm like, what?
Wow. Now, when someone is...
Because they've been reporting back.
Right. They're saying, like, she's okay. It's awesome there. And she's like, let me go see for myself.
Yeah. So. She's like, I guess I could get on a plane. I guess I could get a passport. Maybe I'll ask them when I'm at the post office. I'm like, oh, okay. That's an idea.
Oh, that's wonderful. So you've been there for about a year and a half, almost 2 years at this point. Yes. And so you have a business called Blaxit Global. Explain how that came to be and when you started it, because a year and a half is not a very long time to get settled, to start a business. I mean, to learn your way around a country. And on top of it, you're traveling. So when did you start that? What does the business do? And how did you, how did you decide you would do that?
Sure. So with everything that was going on in 2020 and feeling like my dream was falling apart or falling away, I was getting depressed. I wasn't able to sleep. I wasn't eating. And as the sole breadwinner for my family, I was like, I can't allow like my mind to go.
Right.
And so, and I had gotten laid off and, just all of these things that were, I feel like the best description of that time period was just like feeling like somebody kept squeezing a vice, right? Like every day was something else happening. And, it just was like another squeeze. And so I knew I had to redirect that energy, that negative energy, into something positive. And so I had competed years ago for there's an organization in New Jersey called Rising Tide Capital. And years ago,
I'm familiar with it. Yeah.
Yes. I love Rising Tide. And I had this idea they had a statewide competition that if you had a business idea or a business, you can pitch and then win like this big prize. And so my business idea at the time was a podcast for women entrepreneurs. And, I was a finalist and met other finalists, and, one in particular, Kim, we kept in touch. And so she subsequently, started a podcast. And so during, everything with the pandemic, everybody was, that was the year of the pivot. And so she started teaching podcasting. And so, we were talking, and she's like, oh, Chrishan, I'm teaching podcasts. And I'm like, oh, that's great. This is now some years since the competition, like 7 years to be exact. And I was like, oh, that's great. She's like, you should do a podcast. I'm like, baby, that ship done sailed. Right? It's been 7 years, right? Like, at the time, nobody heard a podcast, right? This was 2013, right? So it was pretty nascent at that time.
Uh-huh.
And I was just like, now we're in 2020. I'm like, nah. So I go to bed, and I guess it was like swirling in my brain. And I wake up the next morning, I'm like, oh my God, I've got an idea for a podcast. And I was like, wow. I want to talk to Black expats. Now, this is during the pandemic. This was mid-May 2020. Because from the time that I had that idea to the time we went live with our first episode was only like 3 weeks.
Oh, okay.
And yeah, and I did not know any Black expats. So I was going on Instagram, DMing people and introducing myself like, hey, I know we don't know each other. I'm Chrishan Wright. I've got this, would you tell your story? And sure enough, people were like, yeah, right? Like, we're on lockdown, right? I'm in Bali. I can't leave. I'm in Costa Rica. I can't leave. Sure, right? People were open to my surprise and delight. And so, yeah, that's kind of how I got through season 1.
Okay.
And certainly after that, the media started to pick up the story. So I think the first one was the Huffington Post. And then there was other outlets, I can't even remember all the order now, but I remember the first one was the Huffington Post, been in the New York Times and Associated Press, Reuters. And I was like, wow, somebody's listening to this.
Right. That must have been so rewarding,
It was. And people were like, oh, can I tell my story? And all of these things. And so I had at the time, we had a Facebook community.
Okay.
And that started to grow. And at that time, I was just trying to figure out, like, okay, I always treated Blaxit Global like it was a business. Like I trademarked, the name. My background is in marketing, so I treated it no differently than when I've done marketing for multi-million-dollar businesses that I used to work on. So I was like always approaching it from that strategic perspective. And not certain that it would be something that would then support me in my future life. But it was something I enjoyed doing. It was where my passion finally met my purpose. And in the time, in my lifetime, my career, I've had, some people would say a very storied career in different, areas, industries, etc. But at the same time, I can't always say that I was passionate about the work that I did. It was just things that I was good at, right? Like I had a high degree of competency, but, was it something that lit me up? Not really. It's just something that paid me a lot of money.
Yeah. It's like the classic, like, I'm very good at this, but I could do it or not do it.
It pays the bills.
Right.
It pays the bills. And so when all of the shenanigans that happen to Black people and Black women in general, right? Like in corporate America and these corporate settings happened. At that point, I had done so much mental work on myself about my identity, about being true to who I am, and, also getting older, right? Like realizing that the older I get, the bigger the target on my back becomes, because I already have one dot for being a woman, one dot for being Black, right? One dot for being a Black woman who's approaching age 50, right? Like all of these things. And I said, oh, I got to have an exit strategy because I can't have my job be my sole source of my income. That's very risky. Because people work at will in the United States, not contract work like in many other countries.
Right.
And because I was raising my kids on my own, I was like, oh, I always had to have some type of safety net because, while they have their father, like he's not part of our immediate household. So I always had to think about like, okay, well, what's this going to be? And so, I started thinking about like, what are the services that I could provide to people at their different stages? And so through there, we went to a paid community. We have our accountability group that I run every month. We have workshops where I have other expats and people with different levels of expertise, lawyers, etc., come depending on the countries that our members are interested in. I do one-on-one coaching. I've hosted several meetups. Now that I'm in Portugal, we do in-person events. And so I'm actually having our 5-year anniversary yacht party this
Wow, that
October.
sounds fun.
Yeah. And then we're also having a meetup with the co-founders of Exodus Summit. And yeah, it's just been like one thing after another. And I also help people who are interested specifically in moving to Portugal, Scout Portugal. So through our program, Nomad Noir, it's a very high touch program where, the women come here, mostly women. We haven't had any men yet. But they come and they get connected with different service providers to help them in not only in their decision making as to whether or not Portugal is right for them, but the things that matter, like what's healthcare like,
Right.
what visa am I going to qualify for, what does housing look like, is it a process that's similar to what I've experienced in my home country? And so it's really like being very high touch over the course of the time that they're there. And the feedback has been incredible. And so it's been, like I said, just when I think about passion and purpose, it's like, oh, wow, this is the most purposeful and purpose-filled area of my life. So I'm happy about that.
This must be not, like you said, it's not only great for you, but the service that you're providing to people is something that it used to be just the corporations that did all of the visa work. And unless you were, I guess, many years ago, there were two types of visas or main visas. Mm-hmm. One where you were recruited and the company did everything. And then if you were like the genius visas, but now they have so many now, so people are navigating. So do you find, the people that you work with, do you find that they are coming because now it's more available as opposed to like the gatekeeping is gone in a sense? So do you find people are like, hey, there's no reason why I can't live where I want to. I don't have to be associated with a company or an organization. Are you finding that to be true?
That's a great question. Yes and no. Because when I think about like our core demographic, we're in that 45 plus age range, right? Of people. So 45 all the way to retirees. The younger folks, right, would go, oh, wow, this digital nomad thing, or I can do this, I can do that. The people that are in that middle career aren't thinking, oh, wow, I could qualify for a digital nomad visa, or I could do an entrepreneurship visa, or I could do a student visa, right? They're thinking very much that I need a job that can bring me to this country, or I need to wait until retirement and then qualify. It's either or. So it's only when they come in and they get support that the aperture opens and they're able to say, oh, wait, I thought that I could only do this, right? You start to think non-linearly. And so that's been a great unlock to witness with a lot of our members.
Okay. That's really great because I don't think I think now people may be more familiar with like the digital nomad visa and some of the other ones, but that's really a great point. So it sounds like you get a certain demographic, people who are 45 and up, and they generally fall in the people who come because they're retired or people who come because their company is sponsoring them. Have you found someone or people who come because they're not attached to a company. They are not ready to retire, but they want to live somewhere for a few years, and they fall into that demographic of being 45 and older. And what do they do?
Yeah, now people are, I think, if I had to think about it in terms of periods, right?
Right.
In 2020, there were, with everything going on, there was definitely like a groundswell of people who were like, oh, wait a minute, right? Because people were able to stop the hamster wheel, or the hamster wheel stopped long enough for them to question.
Correct. Yes.
And say, oh, wait a minute, why do I have this long commute? Why am I spending all this money on dry cleaning? Why can't I do my job from here, right? Like it gave people enough pause to ask questions.
Right.
Now, fast forward 5 years, and they're seeing now the outcome to some degree, right? So now it was forced stay at home. Now it's forced return to office. And people are like, whoa, like I had this idea down the road, maybe when, 10, 15 years from now, when I'm reach retirement age, but now I've got, I'm either a single woman, or I've got, some grandkids or whatever, like whatever familial configuration there is. People are like, look, I don't care what or where. I need a way out, right? And they're like, look, by hook or by crook, we're going to figure this out. And I say, like, that is fantastic, because the reality of it is that everybody, right? Like if you're listening to this interview, you have survived 100% of your best days and 100% of your worst days. So you have an excellent track record of success.
That's a great way of saying it.
Yeah, like who's to say that you can't do this and be successful, right? Like you're not going to be on the street. More than likely, that's not going to happen, right?
Right.
So sometimes it is just like pressure testing people's worst case scenario and saying, okay, let's talk about it, right? Because if you're stuck in your head will lie to you. Like it'll keep you, and your country will keep you small, right? My job through leading Blaxit Global, through the podcast and having these stories with Black people all over the world, is to illuminate and amplify and show that you can go wherever you want to go, right? It could be Kenya, it could be Scotland, it could be, Greenland, I don't care, right? Like whatever is in your heart space that's calling you, go do it, right? And then like, what's your worst case scenario? Your worst case scenario is that you have to go back to America? Okay, that's my worst case scenario. It's not going to happen, right? But because for me, a lot of things would have to go wrong in order for that to happen. And so as like, why do I have to fall into this like doomsday scenario? Because it goes back to what I said. Well, I've got a great track record of success, right?
Right.
It's a reframe. Because everything in and I don't know, other people might be watching from other countries, but I can only speak to my lived experience in America. Everything, the media, all of it plays into your fears, into your anxiety, and it keeps you in this survival feedback loop. Because if you can stay in survival mode, you can't think about what's going on to the left or right of you, right? You have to just, I just got to get through this day. I just got to keep on going, right? You can't think of Black joy. You can't think of traveling the world. You can't think of being untethered from your job, and because that job also provides health insurance.
Yes.
Right? So
yes.
You need that, because getting sick in America will bankrupt you, right?
Right.
And so
a lot of people don't realize that, but we have a very, that's how our system works here.
And so when you start to break that system, when you start to look at how to hack the matrix and how to extricate yourself and your dependency on the system, And you're like, oh, baby, right? You have, one, you become a threat to the system. First and foremost, let's not ignore that. But you also have this ability to tap into your creativity, right? To think about what you want, but not just in a very, American can be very an individualistic society, but to think of you first, because for so many of us, we've had to think of other people and not put the oxygen masks on ourselves. So that's the part that, like, I think people just need help seeing that for what it is, and then trusting themselves, right? Trusting their instinct, being able to think about what is it that I need, and then think about the collective. That's what I love about being in Portugal. It's like, yes, I, Chrishan, I have my business. I lead a very, very comfortable life here. But I also think about, well, what my neighbor might need, and my neighbor thinks about what I need, and I think about my contribution here beyond, also as an immigrant, but my contribution to the society, right? That's not an easy thing to do in America, right? It's very, very hard because, again, it goes back to keeping you on this hamster wheel.
Yeah, when I'm listening to your story here, it sounds like the first time you were able to get that moment where you were off the hamster wheel was in New Zealand. It was like, okay, this is how life could be. And then you went to Costa Rica. That trip wasn't as successful. Then you went to Portugal, and you felt like after a few days, like this, I don't need to continue doing any researching after this point. So my experience has been that those first few months, you're like in the honeymoon phase, you love it. And then there's something that comes and it's like, okay, some of this stuff is sort of excuse me, some of what I'm experiencing is what I experienced back in my home country. At what point did you feel you're past the honeymoon phase and you feel like, hey, I can actually take a moment to just reflect and just be without feeling like you were on that treadmill, the same one that you left in the U.S. At what point when you were in Portugal did you feel that way?
That's a great question, because I think everybody, when they move to whatever country, there's always this, like you said, honeymoon phase.
Right.
There's this euphoria. You're in Shangri-La. The country can do no wrong. It's like, I remember it's like my second or third day. And in Lisbon in particular, it's gotten better actually, though. But people aren't always good about picking up after their dogs.
Oh,
and I had stepped into some situation. And I had just put on these shoes, these sneakers that I bought. And third day here, second day, taking the dog for a walk. And I took them out the box because I hadn't worn them. I'm like, I'm not touching these till I get to Portugal. And I put them on, and I take them outside, and I walk, and and I lift up my leg to look. I'm like, what is that? And it's now on my leg, my actual skin. And I'm like, ugh, right?
Beyond gross.
Beyond gross, right? So now I got to go home. I got to get a shower. I got to burn everything, right? Like all the things, right? And even with that, I was like, oh, they should get better about cleaning up after their dog. It's like, wait, what? Who am I? And so, yeah, I think there hasn't been, I've been here long enough, right? Approaching 2 years, where I can't say that it is a utopia. I don't think a utopia exists anywhere. But what I will say is, my experience, there's bureaucracy, right? There's just certain things here that move at a different pace than what I'm used to in the States.
And I'm assuming you mean slower.
Very slow. Like
Okay.
I got here in September of 2023. I was processed because you have to do the second part of your residency permit in person in the country.
Okay.
And my appointment was in November of 2023. And typically, 2 weeks after that, you're supposed to get your card, right? That says you're
Oh, your residency
legally
card. Okay.
allowed to come, right, and stay.
Uh-huh.
Well, my residency card didn't come for 6 months.
Wow.
I could not leave. I was like, wait, what do you mean? Like,
Oh, wow.
I'm trying to be patient. And when I moved, it was 12 of us in Blaxit Global Passport, our private community that moved to Portugal. So it was great that I had like built-in community.
Right.
And every one of my members had gotten their card except
No
for
way.
me and one other person because we were processed the week after the agency became a new agency. So everyone that was processed before got their cards lickety split. 2 days later, a week later,
Right.
I was in that band that was those first people. And so,
I see. So
it
the
took
learning
a lot
curve.
of,
Yeah.
it took a lot of complaining and
Oh,
patience and all of that, right? Like, cause I couldn't do anything, right? Like I had to literally be here. And so that was a test. That was definitely a test that took the horse blinders off, right? Like took the rose-colored glasses off and showed serious, I would say, issues, with respect
Okay.
to like efficiency and things like that. But at the same time, like most countries, right? Most countries don't want people in, this big deluge of immigrants coming into their country because, we live in, I wouldn't say a dangerous world, yes, right? But we live in a world where, we have terrorism and things like that. So the pace kind of helps like vet people. Are you able to be self-sufficient? Do you have a criminal background? Are there things that from your past that we need to kind of understand? And so from that perspective, I can say, okay, you know what? It is what it is. But as a person who's a traveler, man, I was messed up. I was like, I done finally made it to Europe. I want to go to here, to here, to here, and I got no papers.
Oh, wow. Yeah,
None.
that must have been frustrating.
It was, and it's funny because some of my friends that who moved before me, so they're in year 2 now,
Okay.
their residency permits are expiring, and they can't get appointments. So then that also limits their ability to then travel outside of the
Okay.
EU. Right. So I'm planning on going away for my birthday, and my girlfriend was like, "Oh yeah, I want to go," and I'm like, "Oh yeah, let's do Croatia and Montenegro." We can't go to Montenegro because my visa's gonna be expired. I'm like,
Okay.
"Oh, okay, right." Like those are some of the things, and like I said, when I think about my experience here in totality, it's been a beautiful experience. Are there areas that are points of friction and frustration? Sure. But it's nothing on the level of what my life was in America. Always hyper vigilant, always wondering, let me make sure I don't have my hands in my pocket too long. Make sure, I'm looking over my shoulder, somebody following me. I'm not in a crowd just in case something pops off. Like all of this preoccupation in my headspace that takes me away from maybe I just want to go and get on the bus and go get a liter of sangria and watch the sunset, which is what I do.
Right.
And hang out with my friends and eat gelato. Like it's definitely been a shift. And even realizing that I didn't need a job, right? Like I thought I was going to be part of a corporate move, and
Was that
my
your
former
intention when you
employer.
first came here? Was that your intention when you first came, or were
No, that
thinking
wasn't my
about it?
intention when I first came to Portugal. It was my intention when I first made the decision to move. You know, I had shared with my employer at the time that that's what I wanted to do, and they seemed to give it lip service, like, "Oh yeah, right," because it was still, 2 years down the road. And then
Oh, okay.
as time got closer, it was like, "Oh, you just blowing smoke,"
Mm,
and it was fine, right? Like, I think people thought that, and I get why, right? Because it's America. There's trapdoors everywhere. It's like, oh yeah, you can't go anywhere. You need me, baby. You
right.
need this check. And I was like, ha ha ha. No, I don't.
So that's so interesting because, we just talked a little bit earlier in the conversation about how people come there because they have these specific visas, whether it's a global nomad visa, or if they're coming to retire, or if they're
Yeah.
there for on a visa that's sponsored by their companies. How did you just took the chance and said, "Hey, I'm going to come here." You said you saved. I know you said that. So when you came, when you went to Portugal, did you how did you, since you were not being sponsored and you hadn't, I guess maybe you had started your business, but you weren't on the ground yet. Were you solely dependent upon just your dog's making an
Another
entrance.
appearance.
Yeah, exactly.
She's like, I don't want to be on the floor anymore. I want to
Exactly.
be on camera.
Exactly. So how did you do it? Because there is that segment of people who are interested in doing it, but don't have that sponsorship from a organization.
Yeah, I mean, I was in the same boat because one of the reasons why I didn't move to New Zealand, what I didn't mention earlier was I also didn't have a visa that I could qualify for at the time.
Oh, okay.
Now, recently, New Zealand has opened up a new visa that I would be eligible for, but I have no desire to leave Portugal. I love it too much. And so I'm like, ooh, I've grown. But yeah, for me, I'm on a retirement visa. So
Okay.
every country is different. In New Zealand, their retirement visa is an age-based visa. And so I was too young for a retirement visa, too old for a work visa.
Got it.
In Portugal, their retirement visa isn't age-based. It
Oh,
is based
interesting.
on either investments or if you could show, and I can't remember what the number is for this year, but it's a very low figure. It's less than $1,000 a month of
Okay.
passive income, then you could qualify. And so
Okay.
I qualified based on what I had in my savings and investments. And so when I moved and I started doing the numbers, it was like, oh, I could retire early. And so that's what I did.
Okay. So I know we're running out of time here, but I wanted to make sure you could give people who are listening or watching at a very high level, what would you recommend that person who, because of this conversation, thinks, you know what, I may want to try living abroad, even if it's for 6 months, a year, however long. What would be the 3 things that you would suggest that they do today or in the next 3 months, say?
Oh, okay. Get in community because
Okay.
community is very important. That's where you're going to get the latest information. You're going to get support. You're going to get the cheat codes, right? Because, no badge of honor for riding the struggle bus when you could just, no badge of honor for that. So I would say get in community. Think about your finances because, everything in life costs money. So understand how much it would cost for you to live abroad, either for 3 to 6 months, however your visa would allow, or beyond that. There are a number of tools available. There's the Earth Awaits, there's Numbeo. There's a lot of online resources that that are crowdsourced. So it's real people putting in their information that helps refine that data. And then I'd say, find out that visa that you would qualify for. And I'm a huge proponent of taking a scouting trip because a scouting trip will save you. If I hadn't gone on that scouting trip to Costa Rica, I would have wasted a lot of time.
Oh, really?
A lot of money to find that it wasn't a country that was right for me at this stage of my life.
Okay.
Right? I would not have found that answer out early. So while I did spend money, flying over there and getting Airbnbs and doing all of that, that saved me so much. And what it also saved me from doing was going there and then thinking that, oh, wow, this move abroad isn't for me, right?
Okay.
It would have prevented that from happening, right? Because it just wasn't the country for what I needed at that time for me. But if I had, by going through a scouting trip to do my routine and see, are there points of friction? Are there things here that I can live with or can't live without? You only find that out by going and exploring. And so I also say scout. Scout.
Okay. Those are 3 great suggestions. Thank you so much for that. And as we wrap up, I have 2 more questions for you.
Sure.
1, where could people find you?
Blaxit Global, Blaxit Global. You can find us on the internet at blaxitglobal.com. I'm on Instagram, Facebook, our YouTube channel. I go live every Thursday, 5:30 p.m. Eastern. You can come into our community, Blaxit Global Passport, and get support. You can attend some of our events, our in-person events or virtual events. So that is where you can find me.
Perfect. And I'll leave the links to those in our show notes. And the very last thing is, do you have anything that we haven't discussed that you would like to tell everyone?
Live life by design, not by default.
I love it. I love it. Thank you so much for joining me today and just educating our audience on everything and all things, expat. So thank you so much for joining me. Chrishan reminds us it's never too late to rewrite your story, that restlessness can be a signal that it's time to realign, that scouting trips are very wise investments, and that with the right support group, you can build something beautiful in a brand new place. If this episode of Dustin's Kaleidoscope resonated with you, do us a favor. Subscribe, leave a 5-star rating, write a quick review. It helps others find the show and keeps you updated on new conversations. You can find links to Blaxit Global and everything we discussed today in the show notes. Thanks for listening, and until next time, live intentionally and keep turning the kaleidoscope. See you next time. Bye.